Exactly. The minute we see the Gopuram, we just say Gopura Darshanam. Okay. And we just do this and we say, even a Gopura Darshanam is enough to take us to the very core. We must understand that within the body we have energy points.
Right.
And the primary energy points, or the most important energy points to understand, are the 7 energy points. All of us know
the 7 chakras.
Exactly, the 7 chakras. So you have the Mooladhara, you have the Swadhisthana. So the Dvajastambha is exactly placed where the Mooladhara is.
Okay.
So imagine the Mooladhara in a human body, which is at the base of the spine. And it is the base of the spine that is indicated. The base of the spine of a temple is the Dvajastambha.
Okay.
The Adhigara Nandi spot is called the Jivatma, which is this body, this physical realm of ours. That is what Nandi is indicating. Now he's always sitting. Why is he sitting in the form of a sprinter ready to bolt into action? Ready to take Shiva on his back, in a pose where you can easily see that the moment Shiva arrives, he is going to take off. Now whenever a sprinter is ready to run, what should be the state of his body?
Awakened, conscious.
Yeah, alert, agile, correct? Agility is what we say. And how should the mind be?
Alert.
Alert. So it's alertness and agility. So this part of the temple itself starts building in you an alertness and an agility, because you're getting closer and getting deeper into the temple.
ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆದ್ರೆ ಲೈಕ್, ಶೇರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
Now obviously the next chakra is
Agna chakra.
So that is the Garbhagriha, and the linga there is, or the divine that is placed there is in the Garbhagriha. And interestingly, this part is very dark compared to all the bright light outside.
To my understanding, even today there are temples, the ancient temples, where there is no light lit inside the Garbhagriha, it is only the diyas. So what is the importance of that?
Only the diya, and when they are showing the lamp also at the deity, you only see a golden hue.
Yes.
As the light passes. We'll come to that. Why is it so dark? But right now let's just complete of this line.
Yes.
Agya Chakra. Agya Chakra is a seat of perception. You can see everything in 360 degrees. The minute you are able to perceive things in front of you. Well, Swadhisthana is also creativity. It's about creating. Here it's about getting the idea in the first place, making the abstract connections, and all that is happening in that in between your eyebrows, the seat of perception, the Agya Chakra. The minute you come there, when you're there are 2 thoughts that come to you when you come to a temple. Wow, I made it. I got so much time to stand here. They gave me 2 minutes, they gave me 5 minutes, they made me stay here, they gave me special prasada. If you notice, till you're with the divine, it's different. The minute you start, the next second you can see, depending on whatever you receive from there, your aham comes in, I did it, I got it, this one. And then if you return with that, your energy starts descending so quickly. Because you're already thinking of you were the most deserving who got it. But for those who stand there and are just lost in that darkness, an absolute dark zone, no light, only the little light, only there, and complete one-pointed focus, and then suddenly feeling, remember people say that you can't visit a temple, you need to have a bilava. Right?
Yes.
When we feel that we have been called, it is her or him, whatever gender you want to place to the divine, it is because of the grace that I got here, and you're melting at the very thought of the grace. That's when you reach the Sahasrara and you reach universal consciousness. So that entire space is the Anahata, that absolute center refuge, and as it reaches right up to the peak of the Gopura from the inside is the Sahasrara. And that is the zone of the Paramatma. So you have, what did we see? Antaratma. Then we saw the Jivatma. Now we are seeing the Paramatma. So, and that's what we say in Danda, Brahmanda. We always keep saying, and look at the beautiful connection between the human body and the way a temple is structured. So the more we understand this and know, now accordingly will be the rituals, actually, if you understand the rituals. Early in the morning they do the puja to the Dwajastambha, then you have a cow there and they're talking about fertility, this one, etc. And then they offer, some food, etc. at the Bali Pita, and then they take you a little deeper inside, and then there is melodious music and drums and all that sung, because your Vishuddhi is getting all activated and opened up, and then you go and it's absolute silence and they say stay quiet. That's why today it disturbs me a lot when either the priest or the police start shouting there and say moo, 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 because it is a place of silence. That is why in many of the ancient temples or not so crowded temples, you actually seem to be achieving that a lot more. True. So my tryst with temples, like I was recently in Goa and everybody was like, Jai Shri, Goa and temples. I said, redefining Goa, I said,
Goa is actually a home of temples.
It's home of temples. I said, everybody is talking about beaches, bikini and booze, and I am talking about sanctity, sacred things, Shashwat Brahmins and sacred temples. So now coming to the entire Garbhagriha, it's considered to be the most sacred space. Now it's also dark, correct? Now you have to think and tell me quickly that what is it that happens in the dark, and most creative activity actually happens in the dark.
Yes.
What do we mean by that? Can you relate to something?
You observe more in the dark.
Yes.
You're more attentive in the dark because you will not lose the track of it.
Very true.
Maybe in the light you just walk, but when it is dark and when there are no lights, you make sure you go in the right track.
Yeah, see, when a seed germinates,
That is also in the dark.
and when the baby is in a womb of the mother, it's also darkness. And then it is coming out into the light. So this particular thing is called Garbhagriha. It is the sacred womb. So it is immaterial of whether it is a Rama temple, a Shiva temple, or a Subramanya temple, or a Devi temple. It is still the sacred womb, the mother's womb that you see there. Now what is the beauty about that? That is where everything is happening, everything is germinating, creativity is happening. Now the devotee is entering, alright, and this is the sanctity of it, it's getting closer and closer to the thing. Now, and the mother, the softest part of the mother and the creative womb of the mother is present there. So it's actually an interaction between the devotee and the divine. And now when the devotee turns, it is what he has created for himself from deep within him that gets realized. That gets created. Simple way to understand. So when you really get there, your own desires, your own everything that you are, the purpose of your life, your Swadharma, what it is that you are born for, everything gets crystallized.
How often should I visit temple to understand this?
Very interesting question. Now I'll give you one more small thing, okay? Even when we are visiting temple, we did start off from the Dwajastambha. But we all know that in bigger temples, even around the Dwajastambha, there's so many sculptures and art and this one. People, for the sake of talking, also say, oh, Khajuraho has all kinds of, from the Kama Sutra, from this one, etc. But the reality or the essence of all that is drawn outside is to give us so much satisfaction to our senses, because we are always moving outwards. We are always looking outwards. So unless we get completely satiated completely saturated, we cannot go deep inside. And that is why there is so much provided outside so that you get saturated. And when you're there, you're saying, enough, okay, now let me focus, and then you're getting deeper and deeper inside. Now, having said this, you would have also heard many of the gurus saying, it is not about going to a temple. Like Kabir says, no. मुँह को कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास रे. न मंदिर में, न मस्जिद में, न काशी में, न काबा में, he says. But you must listen to that last line he sings. Everybody can just say this and say, oh, it's not in the temple, why are you wasting your time? That's not the essence. What they're trying to say is, मैं तो तेरे पास रे. So even if you're going to the temples, even if you do not realize this, and understand every ritual as a moving inward for yourself, in order to come outward later and create what it is that is the purpose of your life in this one. There's no point in going to a temple. Point one. Two is, how often do we go? I think every breathing moment we should be in a temple, right? We should be moving deeper and deeper in. So what is it that we have to do? Meditate, even when we are in the temples. So you can do the same thing even sitting in your own little puja room or a little room that you created for yourself, where you're consciously bringing all your dimensions inwards. That is why they say you are a temple. The divine resides within you. But remember, it's like a child who cannot understand abstract mathematics or numbers even, unless you make it a concrete experience for the child. So this is an outer architecture of our inner journey.
Jashima, I understand the structure of it. Then why should we go around? Why should we do a pradakshina? And what do we get out of it?
Beautiful. So now we've understood that the energy is moving upward, right? So you say the Dvajastambha is the Mooladhara, and out here, the entire Gopura, you have the Sahasrara. And we also know a Kumbhabhisheka is done, and there are Kumbhas placed at the top of the Gopura as well as on top of the Dvajastambha. And you also know seers and a lot of divine masters come and they kind of make a lot of sacred chants, mantra. Similarly, inside the Garbhagriha, there is also the same sound waves is translated into a design, and that is encrypted on metal, and that is called yantra.
Right.
So we have mantra shakti and you have yantra shakti, and then tantra is nothing but the ritual. So there are so many rituals that are happening. Now we move around the temple. So you have the Dvajastambha, it's emanating an energy, and when you are doing an elliptical circle around the thing, just like the planets are moving around the sun, same elliptical pattern. What do you actually observe? You see that you are, the center is holding you, the divine, the mother, the creation is holding you, and you are also walking in that zone of energy. So your chakras, they are going upward, there's an upward swing that is happening, and you're merging with the divine, and this pradakshina is keeping you in the same orbit and inside the same wavelength.
Is there any significance of the number of pradakshinas? Some consider 1, 3, 5.
I think the more we remain in that zone, the better. Two reasons. One, some of us who practice meditation, who can sit with the eyes closed and for some time stay immaterial of the sounds that are happening outside, it's okay. You don't even have to do that many directions. But let us imagine there's a lot of body energy and you have not calmed down yet. There's a lot of rajasic energy in your body, and it's only now that you're coming into that sattvic ambit. So this pradakshina, this physical thing kind of helps you get out of that, and easy for you to sit and stay centered even for a little while. Meditation is predominantly important. Yeah, all of us, because we have been exposed to so much noise, so many desires. Even while you travel to a temple at a great distance, there's so much of planning that you're doing, etc. You're all in the inertia of motion. We are all in the inertia of motion. Now, it is not easy to come into rest. Now, it is very important to rest. This Garbhagriha is completely about not wanting the outside exuberance, wanting to be calm, wanting to slow down, wanting to be centered. So that bit of physical activity helps us get centered. Again, it's a small ritual practiced in order to achieve the very same goal, which is your ability to look deeper into yourself. Now there's a statement, right? Like usually we say when we are feverish and there's a feverish pursuit for something, it keeps evading us. But the minute you let go and calm down, suddenly things seem to be configuring itself so beautifully, and it happens. And this is not something philosophical, it's actually happened to all of us. If we are in awareness, we would have noticed it very well. So we all know feverishness does not lead us. It will definitely make us anxious. Yeah, we might speed it up, we might still reach there, but only letting go. You know, my Guru Dev, Sri Ravi Shankar always uses this example of the Archimedes. You know, he says, remember Archimedes' principle? How did he find it? He was doing so much research, but it is only when he went into the bathtub and actually relaxed and became buoyant that he discovered the Archimedes principle, right? So it was so important for him to experience buoyancy in order to explain buoyancy. So unless we let go, even Newton, right? He sat under an apple tree. All that he was, but when he relaxed, an apple fell on his head. Eureka! He got everything. So that's sthirata, that calmness, that slowing down.
So however fast you are, however aggressive you are, however enthusiastic you are to attain things, attain the calmness to achieve.
Absolutely, for it to happen.
Okay.
In other words, it's also called the Bhairava moment. Wait for that moment where you lose all sense of space and time. And then it's happening and you don't have any sense of space or time and you're just continuing with the flow. Never again can you replicate it.
Yes.
Never before would you have seen a glimpse of it. It is only at that moment of now, here, that you actually achieve it.
That achievement happens in a temple.
Yeah.
Because it's the center of energy.
It is designed to help us, to assist us. But if we are going to fall prey to the sheer crowd, the sheer desire, and have a lot of negative thoughts about why are we doing this, why are those people going for us, why is that? You must understand that your time is fixed. Let go. Be there. Keep chanting. Remember the Vishuddhi Chakra. If you are coming closer and closer, start singing. Well, be in gratitude for the grace to flow.
That was an amazing conversation to understand temple architecture and inner engineering.
Right.
So I think there was a bit of awareness brought in out of this conversation.
Yeah, every bit, every drop makes an ocean. It's very important. Thank you so much for these lovely questions. Because personally for me, when I translate temples into classrooms, I always feel you will get your ROI, return on investment, only when you understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
And only when you go deeper with that kind of an experience, understand the tattva of, what it is. So, in fact, the Dvajastambha, see the minute I said tattva, looks like I missed a point. It's a reminder from the temple itself. Dvajastambha is called Tattvalinga.
Okay.
So the essence. That is why Dvajastambhas will have certain patterns and other things that it carries. The essence of this temple. Every temple is consecrated with a different energy. So the Dvajastambha and the symbols on the Dvajastambha tells us the essence of this temple.
What do you mean by different energy?
Fantastic. So let's say you're going into a Subramanya temple. You get a warrior like Z.
Okay.
If you get into a Narayana temple, you are going into sustenance mode. And if you're going into a Shiva temple, it's all about destroying everything that is not working in your favor and starting afresh. When you get into a Shakti temple, a Devi temple, it's all about sensing energies and the flow.
You feel that.
You feel it. So everything has a different essence to it. That is how the design is. So even the yantras I spoke about has specific designs for evoking specific energies. Every temple is aligned, or the frequencies. For instance, a very easy way to explain, radio, you have a radio and you have so many channels. How do you tune in to that exact channel? It's only when you go and tune that little thing and you capture that frequency, do you get FM, Radio Mirchi. Otherwise you'll be all over the place, right? That is how a temple is structured. And
This is something new to add. We always think that going to a temple, you find peace, you find,
We do, yeah.
But every deity has something else to charge you with.
Totally. Depends. For instance, if you're low on self-esteem
Huh.
and you need a self-esteem booster, they immediately say, go say the Aditya Hridayam and go to Surya temple and get out into the sun,
Stand in the sun.
Stand in the sun. So Surya temple evokes that energy in you, that your self-esteem just gets boosted. You start feeling good. Self-esteem is feeling good about yourself. You start feeling good about yourself. So,
This
and-
I knew because chanting Aditya Hridaya brings in that energy, but I didn't know that going to a Surya temple would have the same effect of it. See, so that was a beautiful conversation with Jayashree ma'am. A lot more understanding is still needed, and I am sure we will be meeting her often. But if you really wish to understand the essence of every temple, then you have to go back to an Insta page by name Temple Tattva, where Jayashree ma'am is connecting you to every temple you visit. Even before visiting a temple, if you can watch a 1-minute episode on Temple Tattva, you will be more connected to the temple you visit. So that was Jayashree ma'am from IBM Academy with us. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you, Naina. And as always, Naina itself means deep insights, right? A good vision, and I think that's what you're providing most of the people who are listening to you. I hope you had fun listening to this very, very layman depiction, deeper understanding, and why you should do what you should do. So thanks a lot. Keep visiting temples.
Hope you find this conversation interesting.